Hey, what's up guys? I'm Cody York. Thanks for joining me. We just got done shooting in the field all these awesome Milky Way photos, so now I'm going to show you how to put them together in Starry Landscape Stacker. Okay guys, so the first thing we do once we sit down at our computer is we're going to download our files onto the desktop. And I prefer to put them in a folder on the desktop because it works faster being on the local drive versus being on an external drive or cloud storage. You could use those two other options, the cloud or an external hard drive. There's nothing wrong with that, but it will work a little slower because it's pulling from another space off-site. Once you've downloaded your photos into a folder on the desktop or drive, you're then going to go into Lightroom and import them. I've already gone ahead and done this process, but the way you would do it is be into library mode. You would go down here, select import. You would find that folder on the desktop or external drive, whichever you're using. In this case, I've put them on my desktop. They're in this folder titled Southwest Trip Fall, and it would be under new photos. They would all appear here, and I would hit the import dialog button, not done. You'd want to hit import, and it would import them into Lightroom. I've already done that, so I'm just going to hit done. And here are all my photos under Southwest Trip Fall from the desktop. So I'm going to select White Pocket. These are the images I want to show you today. We're going to go ahead and go through and find out which sky images from the trip that I want to show you to edit in Starry Landscape Stacker and or Sequator if you're on a PC. So I've kind of already done that liberty. I've gone through, found some of my favorites. I want to show you guys this one. This is the final edit of what we're going to be putting together. The sky images are right here. These are all the raws, and I've gone ahead and made selections. You'll want to narrow these down so you can find them. I put a flag on each of them, which is the letter P, and there's a total of 16 shots, I believe. I'll show you right here, 16 selected. That was a shift click on a Mac. And I'm going to go ahead and just select this first file, and I'm going to do some small edits here in Lightroom before we export these all for Starry Landscape Stacker. So I'm going to go up to the Develop module. The first thing I do is look at our white balance and our exposure, and I kind of eyeing up the histogram to make sure we're in the right place. So overall, this photo is a little on the dark side, and it's probably a little on the cooler side. So the first thing I'm going to do is bump the exposure so I can see the colors a little more, maybe around a 40 or 50. And none of these settings, as far as plus or minus, is accurate or carries over to be precisely the same for every photo. It's more of just using a feel and a visual of what works and looks best for you. Now I'm going to go up here to the temperature, might increase the warmth a little bit. I like to have a little bit more magenta. I tend to like my Milky Ways to be a little bit on the cooler side and the more magenta side, but that's a preference of taste. For me, the night sky tends to be a little more cooler, so I'm going to keep it at that. The next step I want to do is increase the whites because we want some of those stars to pop a bit more. I'm going to boost that a little bit. You can see the sky brightening up. From there, I'm going to bring down the blacks a little bit just to add some contrast. And then the next major step, we're going to go down here to the lens correction. Now this is a very important step. You want to make sure that remove chromatic aberration is on. And you also want to check enable profile corrections. But the thing here is we like that it's correcting the vignetting, but we don't want it to correct the distortion. And the reason for that is, if you can see here on the screen, we have these banding issues that start to happen when we correct the distortion from the wide angle lens. And that doesn't translate very well, and you see that in the final image. So what we want to do is remove that distortion, and it'll be back to how the original file was. That looks much better. But we do want to correct for that vignetting. So if I turn the vignetting off, you can see it's really heavy because it's a wide angle lens. So I do want that vignetting correction. That's it for lens corrections. Then we're going to go down to the calibration tab where we're going to increase the saturation. We're going to boost the color here in our primary channels, red, green, and blue. This seems to work much better and be more accurate than using the saturation or vibrance slider. And as far as Lightroom settings go, that's pretty much all that I would do in here. I'm gonna zoom in and take a look. There's one other thing. If I wanna enhance the Milky Way in here a little bit before my final edit, if I feel comfortable, I'll hit this dialog box over here, the little tab for a local adjustment, and I'm gonna create a radial gradient. I'm gonna click and drag it over the Milky Way. Let me go back on that, and then make it more accurate into the middle. And then some adjustments that I would do locally just to the core of the Milky Way, I'd uncheck the show overlay, is that I would scroll down here in the dialog box and increase the clarity. I'll overdo it so you see it. It's gonna make the Milky Way pop. And then I may boost the whites a little more in the core, and then the blacks a little heavier, add some contrast. And I'll show you a before and after here. So here's the before, there's the after, and that would be it for that. So once we finished up that local mask adjustment, we're gonna go ahead and close that dialog box. And then we're gonna apply all these settings from this single file to the rest of our sky images. To do that, we're gonna shift click all the way to the last file, and we're gonna hit sync. And then you wanna click the check all dialog button here, and we're gonna hit synchronize, and it'll apply those settings to all those photos. So now if I click through, you'll see that these are all the same as far as the sky goes. From there, we're gonna keep shift click on all of them, and then we're gonna control click on a Mac. We're gonna hit export here. And then this is very important on these settings. So we wanna put these in a subfolder. I put them on the desktop temporarily because I'm not gonna save these files. So I'm just gonna call these Sky Stack. And then the file naming, you wanna leave this as the original file name. File settings, you're gonna change this to a TIFF. You're gonna want this as ProPhoto RGB, which is the max color space. Change that to 16-bit depth. Not gonna do anything else with image resizing or output sharpening. Metadata, you wanna have it as all. That helps the stacking software work better. And then we're gonna hit export. So it's exporting all 16 files to the desktop. And from here, we'll open up Starry Landscape Stacker. So in Starry Landscape Stacker, first thing we're gonna do is have to find those files on the desktop again. So I'm gonna go over here to desktop. I'm gonna select Sky Stack where I put them all. And then I'm gonna select all these TIFF files now and hit open. Okay, once it's done opening all those files, you're gonna see that it's created all these little red dots. So the software itself has tried to find all the stars that are in the sky to give a general idea where it should mask. The first thing we're gonna do is also click in areas where it missed some stars. Down here on the horizon is critical, so we're gonna take this add red dots, and we're gonna click and drag around the area of the horizon line so that we make sure that it picks this up for the mask. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be exactly to the edge of the horizon. We just wanna get it as close as possible and cleanly pick up all these areas. I typically use a Wacom tablet to do this. It makes the process a lot easier. But finger on the keypad or trackpad works well too. So I'm just gonna make sure that some of these areas the computer knows to pick up, and that looks pretty good. From here, I'm gonna go to Find Sky, and it's gonna try to create a mask on that sky. It did a really good job. As you can see, it got really close to the horizon line here. Super clean, so we don't need to add or subtract any more to that. So I'm going to zoom back out, Command minus or plus. And now what we're going to do is hit Align and Composite, and it's going to take all those sky images and match the stars up that we're moving and composite them all together. So let's go ahead and do that. And now it's showing us our composite image. You can tell that by the current image showing down here on the bottom of the screen. And when I zoom in, you're going to see the composite image and how much cleaner it is. And I'll show you the example of a single file by itself. You can see all the noise that's there. And then the composite image with them computed together. And it's all cleaned up. So now I'm going to zoom out. And that's our final image right there. So the last thing I check is the horizon line here where the sky and the foreground meet. Starry Landscape Stacker has a composition algorithm, and you can kind of go through these. This is where, when we weren't able to select this certain area with the mask, what the computer does to make up for that and create little stars. There's different blending modes, and you can try these options. You can go on starrylandscapestacker.com and read more. They all do different things, but for the most part, I stick with the default of minimum horizon noise. From there, we're going to go ahead and export this. You're going to hit Save Current Image. And this is really important because you want to save this file back to the same folder on the desktop as you did with all your raw files. You don't want to make a new folder. You don't want to save it in the Sky Stack. You want to save it in the original folder so we can import this with the rest of the photos in Lightroom. So in this case, Southwest Trip Fall, I'm going to save that right here into White Pocket. Hit that. I've already done that, so I'm going to hit Cancel. And then we're going to go back into Lightroom. You're going to hit Import, Library, Import. You would go ahead and find that photo again, which would be under the desktop here and the folder Southwest Trip Fall. It would be under White Pocket, and it would appear here in New Photos, but I've already done that again. So I'm going to hit Cancel, and then it would show back here in your timeline. I'm going to go ahead and find it. Here's the final stacked image, and you know that because it's going to be labeled as minimum horizon noise as a TIFF file right there. And that's it. And you're all set. You finish your file in Starry Landscape Stacker.
All right, that's it for Starry Landscape Stacker. Once you've taken that file and you saved it back into Lightroom, we're going to take your foreground image along with that and we're going to composite that. I'll show you that next.